Hey folks, David Hubbell here, and it's November 28th, and I hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving week this past Thursday. Well, the forecast for Mobile on Monday shows that we're going to be getting a low of 28 degrees. Well, what happens is when your Mirliton vine starts seeing temperatures in the mid-40s and below, it's going to stop really flowering and producing fruit. So now it's time to start thinking about preserving your vine. So in this video, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways, or tell you a couple of different ways of what you can do to be prepared. So stay tuned. Well, it's now officially the 13th week of the 2020 fall Mirliton season. If you've liked what you've seen over the last several weeks, please do me a favor and subscribe by clicking that red button below and hitting that bell, and you'll be alerted to new videos when they come out. Well, folks, it's the last weekend in November, and we've had a pretty good run on Mirliton this year. The best I've had probably in about 5 years. As you can see, things are still growing, they're still thriving. But unfortunately, as I mentioned in the intro, we got a freeze coming, and that's typically maybe a week earlier than usually is projected for this area. It may not be a bad freeze, but in reality, when you think about it with your Mirliton, the key to growing it along the Gulf Coast is it'll be a perennial and it'll come back. So you want to do what you can to preserve it. If you don't do anything, all this will die off, and you could risk killing the root system due to all the shock. So what typically happens is the old timers told me that they would go basically and they'd come back down to the root system with the first frost projected, and they would cut that down about maybe 1 inch to 2 inches above the surface, cover it with hay or straw and maybe a cloth, and just let it rest over the winter. Now last year, if you followed along, we had a really early freeze, and I didn't have really any Mirliton production at that point. So what I ended up doing is I covered this whole thing. I pulled anything that was up in the trees up underneath the structure here. And so I pulled it up underneath here. And the beauty of one of these structures is that it gives you a foundation that you can put tarps and visqueen over and basically create almost like a greenhouse. In this case, though, what happened last year is I was able to put heaters underneath it as well, and so I preserved the vine and I was able to get a few more fruit off of it. But this year, because of the fact it's later in the season and I've been doing so well and I've got plenty of them that have already even sprouted, I don't think I'm going to take that chance. It's a lot of work to do it, and my wife and I have done it many times in the last decade, but in this case I think I just cut my losses, because I really, as we talked about and Dr. Hill and I talked about, when you get in the 40s you don't see as much flowering as you did a month or two ago, and as such it means you're not really going to get a whole lot of fruit left. Now right now, because we've had mild temperatures, we're still doing pretty good on our flowering, but it may almost be too much of a shock to the plant to try to do that. And now another method he's talked about that's worked successful, especially when you have a mild winter or a mild day or two of freezing, is to have it constantly being sprayed with a water spray. And I think he's got some detail on his website about that, on how you can be spraying it. And in fact, I think one of our members, Renee, had done that last year, and it did a good job of protecting it. But once again, you can see in my particular case, with it being so expansive, it would be difficult for me to make sure I could get all of it sprayed properly with water. So what I think I'm going to do, I'll hold off till tomorrow when I can verify that it is definitely going to get below 32 or 33, and then I'll come in and pick the rest of my Mirliton and cut it. The only bad part is usually when this has happened, we have a big rain, which is projected tomorrow, so it's kind of a pain in the butt to come out here with that. But as you can see, everything's doing well. The leaves are really nice and pliable right now. But what will happen is when it gets in the mid-40s or below, this turns very papery, and it just browns up, and it's just like dried parchment, and it just crumbles. So I'll take a look at a few more Mirliton, show you some of the citrus that's changed as we got here, and then this may be the last one as far as this vine's growth this year, so we'll see. So you can still see we've got that one that we've been looking at, and my citrus is changing, so I'm gonna have to start testing these soon. Typically, from as an aside, citrus really starts to get better once you get a couple of cold snaps, so that's why I really haven't picked any of them yet. And that's one that's not going to really make it very far. There's another one. I gotta get that one up there. And you can see. I'm gonna try to, I hadn't picked really any since last week. I had about 4 or 5 that fell off. But a lot of the ones I haven't even been able to get to. The few of the people I was hoping to give them to, I didn't need them at this point. So I'm preserving some by freezing them. It's not the preferred method to blanch them and freeze them because they tend to become very watery afterwards. But you know, do what I can, keep them as fresh as possible. And like I said, I'll have quite a bit that I hopefully will get caught up on all my orders from the past 3 years. As you've been following, I hadn't obviously picked any of these yet. But you can still see I got plenty of them up there, so I'm gonna have to get up on the ladder. And probably I'll end up missing quite a few, and after I pull back the leaves, or cut the vines I should say, I'll discover that there'll be some in there, but that's okay. Like I said, I'd rather be blessed with many more than I can use than none at all, so we'll see. Well, one thing I'm going to have to do is, with all these Mirliton I got extra, is I guess I'll start switching from a growing video to some cooking videos on how to make different Mirliton dishes. So stay tuned. Alright, so as I've done the last 2 weeks, we're going to check on our sprouts, and you can see this one has gotten almost about another inch. So this is almost ready to, if not already ready to plant and overwintering. So I've got a video on that one on how to do that. This one's doing pretty well as well, and this is the one that had just a tiny little nub, and it's starting to show a little some leaves and such there. So as we said, you know, the seed inside starts the sprout, and the sprout itself lives off of the fruit, and that's where it gets its nourishment. So when you put it in a pot to overwinter it, you'll usually bury it about this top section down where my thumb is. That'll stay uncovered. The rest will be up underneath, and the roots will come out of the bottom. But you only need to water it maybe once a month, because if you overwater it, it makes all this too wet, and the root structure will tend to start to rot, and you'll get root rot. So these are coming along fine. I've probably got maybe 20 I'm starting this year. So I've got a lot of back orders, so hopefully I will be able to get the people who need them in the Mobile area some. And I've got some relatives as well who are interested in getting some. So, and remember, what I also do is I tend to recommend that you save 3 for yourself. Pot them, and if your vine comes back, well, you can sell them at that time or give them away. But to me, it's a good way of ensuring that you keep your particular variety available for you. There you go, folks, on this. Well, there you have it, folks. I hope this video helped give you an idea of what you can be doing to preserve your vine as the cold temperatures come in. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with somebody who would find it useful. Also, if you haven't done so yet, please hit that button below so you can subscribe, and click that bell so you'll be alerted to new videos that I put out in the future. So if you'd like more in-depth information on growing Mirliton, do me a favor and check out Dr. Lance Hill's mirliton.org website, mirliton.org, or my Facebook page, Mirliton Man of Mobile. Also, if you have any questions, please send them to me at rpcajun2r@gmail.com or leave them in the comments section below. Appreciate you watching this past season, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.